Hey, hey, hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad y'all here this week. Lively Paradox turned 8 years old, and I couldn't be more proud. But what I think is always important to share is that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. If you have ever thought about being an entrepreneur, I'm interested in your comments on this particular Filter Free Friday. I ran across a person once who said that entrepreneurship is 30, 30, 30, like being a professional athlete. So, as an example, 30% of the time you should be feeling like you're on top of the world. There's another 30% of the time that you probably feel like you are average or middle of the ground or neutral. And then there's another 30% of the time where you are just fighting for your life, not sure you should be doing any of this. And if it's about 30, 30, 30, you're probably doing okay. If by excuse me, I'm tired. If by chance you're feeling middle of the road all the time, you're probably not gonna push yourself, to do what's necessary. If you are feeling like everything's great all the time, you're probably not gonna change in the ways that you need to. And if you're feeling like, "Oh my god, this is just terrible," more than 30% of the time, you probably won't have the stamina, the energy, the passion, the commitment to continue. And, so over the 8 years, it certainly has been, closer to 30, 30, 30. The pandemic, interestingly enough, also was, indicative of what it looks like to be in the thirds most of the time. And so I don't know if you're listening, have you ever thought about entrepreneurship, or are you an entrepreneur, and how do you make sure that you kind of stay on top? I was looking forward to year 8 mostly because the average US company does not make it to 8 years old. So once I made it to 8, I was like, yeah. But I want to talk about those low points. It's I share on social often when I have the high points, but I want to talk about the low points. When I first started was actually a low point. I was fired, and I think many people don't know that. In fact, someone that I've known since I was a child was incredibly shocked that part of the reason why I started Lively Paradox is that I was fired. And I remember that year that I, on August 12th, walked out of an office building in Omaha, which is about 2.5 hours away from my home. And, was just like, there's no way I can go back into business and industry. I've been gone too long. Two, my personality is just, I don't know. I can work within systems, but I tend to rub people. One, I value humor. It's in my top three values, and I got to tell you, man, people take your little joke seriously, especially if you matriculate to higher levels of leadership. But two, I value justice, and it's really hard for me to sit for extended periods of time and see people treated unfairly or see unjust rules and not like push on those. And three, I value competence. And if you work inside of a system, you know very well that there's not always a lot of competence in high demand, and you got to figure out how to like work around all of that. And so, interestingly, I didn't think that I was going to go back into industry, so I started Lively Paradox officially that day, and it was a Thursday. And by Tuesday, I had three contracts. But yeah, I got fired on Thursday. By Tuesday, I had three contracts. But here's the thing, people don't pay for work before it's delivered. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? 'Cause, so part of my benefits, unemployment benefits, I go to the unemployment office, and because that's a requirement to get your unemployment benefits. And one of the things that I had to do was review my resume with like this advisor. And I had been working at this point for, I don't know, 15 years. And as a volunteer, help people with their resumes through the Inroads program, making sure that their resumes are beautiful, accurate, easy to read, relevant for the job that people are applying for. And so here I am. I have an amazing resume, and I put it in front of. And at that time, it wasn't even a CV, so it wasn't long. It was still like 2 pages, which is appropriate for someone who's been working for over a decade. And this guy is sitting across from me telling me how to get jobs as an engineer. And there's the main problem with that was that I had not been working in engineering for, I don't know, 5 years or so. And then he was making these, little tweaks that were all stylistic in nature, and just the whole tone of his exchange with me, and Imma own this, it ain't him, it's me. What Imma own is I felt just just not valued. And I left out of that unemployment office that day, and I remember they were telling me I had to apply for 3 jobs a week and let them know, and this was to get $300. And I think the very first week, I submitted my receipts, but I had also done a coaching class, and in that coaching class, I think I made 500 bucks. And so they said they weren't gonna pay me my $300 that week because I had made $500. So I remember being in tears, and I was like, "I am not going to do this again. I'm not gonna do this again." And so that's how Lively Paradox started, but here's where humility comes in. I know that there's no way I would have started this business without being fired. I know that without that humiliation that I felt, that there's no way I would have started this business. I like helping people. I actually like working for people. I wish somebody would I was hoping that my son would want to run my business and then I could work for him. But that the whole start was like that. When you think about the 30, 30, 30, and I'm amazing, I'm average. Oh my God, this is terrible. The entire start was, oh my God, this is terrible. But then within a month, how where I say God is faithful. One of my primary clients from my former job was like, "Hey, are you going to continue to do this work?" They invited me to come up to see them, and because they were having some challenges based on some of the things that I had told them. And they signed a contract for me to come and see them every month. And that first year, they were worth my entire salary in my former job. And that's where the God part of this comes in. And then on top of that, I have a partner with Inside Out Development, who's a coaching outfit out in Utah. Man, listen, these folk said, however much you want to work, we will keep you busy. And so they represented like 90 grand. I was on the road all the time, teaching their content as a consultant for them. And it was, it was wonderful. I was having a good time. And, my best friend came and joined me. She's a spectacular science and math teacher. If y'all don't know Brandy Thornton, she's also a minister, just an amazing person. If she don't get to heaven, I don't think any of us gonna make it. But Brandy left her job and came to support me. And then she was, then I had somebody who could submit requests for proposals, and things were just going really good. And it was wonderful. And then Brandy wanted to get back in the classroom. She loved being in the classroom. So I had to find me a different assistant. And here's another way God has been amazing. Over these 8 years, I have consistently had really good help. I'm going to be preaching at Oasis Church on Sunday for Reverend Michael Brooks, who's going to be on vacation. And I'm going to be talking about um, just the power of being in your purpose. I do think that I'm doing what God would have me to do. And one thing that I'm gonna mention I only got 3 points. I try not to talk too long, especially when I'm a guest. But one of them is how God will give you the people you need when you for the skills you don't have. I can't tell you how many times I run into people who think because I'm good at what I do, that means I'm also good at fundraising, or that means I'm also good at decorating or hosting a party, or that I'm also good at the details, make something happen. And I'm just not. I'm just not. And God has been faithful in that way to always give me somebody who could be working alongside me to keep this thing up and running. And right now, listen, I don't know that there's anybody better than Jocelyn. And when you think about the just what it took for us to end up together, it's ridiculously wild. So another point when I thought, oh my God, this is horrible, being an entrepreneur, was when the pandemic happened. Because first of all, most people were calling me for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know my first book was about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know that I can speak to the topic very well based on my lived experiences and based on my postdoctoral studies at Stanford. Like I know DEI. The challenge is I'm not a DI expert, right? I'm a leadership expert, and you can't be a good leader if you don't recognize you have difference on your team, if you don't recognize you need to recruit some kind of difference on your team, if you don't know how to retain that difference on your team, if you don't know how to make those people feel like they belong so you can get the best out of that team, it's not good leadership. That's where DEI comes into my work. Like, you can't be a good leader if you don't get the DEI part. I stand on that. I believe it. And so I was getting tons of work, right? Like, I thought there were 3 months during COVID where, praise the Lord, I was still able to make payroll, didn't fire anybody. But at that time, Doc had to go back into the schools, and Sharayla was at home with her kids, and it was really hard for her to work at home because the kids were there, and I couldn't give work away. I was doing free webinars to try to help people because, again, the God had blessed us that year prior, and I was trying to put the money back into the business. I was not trying to use it for my own gain, and I couldn't give it away. People wouldn't take it. I didn't have nothing to do. And then George Floyd was murdered on national television in front of all of us while we weren't doing anything. And there was just this energy that just, man, it was like air beneath the wings of DEI and leadership related to it. And I was like, okay, well, DEI is part of leadership. I have written a book about cultural responsiveness. I've written a book about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to ride this wave. But the best thing out of that time was that Jocelyn and I met. I was doing a radio show over at KCUR. I'm sorry, yeah, KKFI, excuse me, 90.1. And I had time to do the radio show with a group of volunteers who were focused on anti-racism. And it was Asian American Pacific Islander Month. I called my cousin James, and I'm like, hey, was your wife Stormy available to be on the show with me? And he was like, Stormy, she it took a few days, but she ain't really feeling nothing like that. What about it? Let me hook you up with my daughter Missy. Well, turns out, I don't really know Missy that well. Missy busy. Right. So Missy can't do it. And so James goes, all right, well, I'm gonna connect you to Jossie. I don't know Jocelyn at all. And I know sometimes people can't understand how this can be, but I got 100 first cousins on my price side. I don't know all their kids. I know all of them, which I think is doing a good job, but knowing all their children, that's asking a whole lot. So um I give Jocelyn half the information she needs to get her job done. Give her, I mean, like, basic details, and she shows up on that show. She's on a panel with other folks talking about the unique challenges of being Asian American, um, are from the Pacific Islands, and, man, listen, it was fantastic. And so I meet with her. I'm like, hey, how things going at your job, right? Because right now I don't have an assistant, and things are wildly busy. And she tells me how things are going at her job, and I go on to say, listen, what I got to do to get you to come over here and join me, because I could tell that she also was just drastically different from me. Think about Moses and Aaron. And she said yes. And here's a God in that, right? Jocelyn doesn't say yes to things without thinking them through. That's some, you know, ridiculousness that I would do. That's not something she would do. And she did it. And it has been fantastic for us. But listen, it didn't take, y'all know, it didn't take long for folk to lose their interest in DEI. And while they were losing their interest, I was going through my own personal travesty. I found out during that time that I was an MPE. If you're not familiar with MPEs, that's a not parent expected event where I learned that I had a different biological father than I than I thought. And if you don't know, I'm on the board for the DNA Angels. They are an amazing organization. If you have not had an opportunity to learn about them, go to DNAangels.org and check out what they do. And if you can give them $5 or so, please do so. They help people for free find out who their paternal, I mean, who their family is. So you could be adopted or anything. So if you know somebody who's trying to figure that out, the DNA Angels can help. But here's what I think I'm too old to feel is disappointment, embarrassment, worry. I feel like sometimes I'm even too old to be exhilarated. This is just ridiculous because emotions don't have feelings, and my own personal executive emotions don't have ages. And my own personal executive coach told reminded me of that this morning. But why do I tell you that? Well, because I'd started writing Spark the Heart, had written a whole book. It was a book about leadership and empathy. There were no emotions in this dang book. Zero, because I didn't really feel them in that way. I knew exactly what I thought. I did not know what I felt. But through this process of learning that I was an MPE, I certainly ran into some emotions that my mind couldn't work me out of. And Jocelyn was right there alongside me throughout that entire process. And she's a feeler, though, right? It's like she's a true blue feeler. And so we started to talk about the importance of empathy and leadership. And what's interesting, this woman named Adriana came to work for me as an apprentice, and I love apprenticeships. So if you know anybody who's interested, I do pay my apprentices, so let me know. But anyway, Adriana was going through all of my work, and the word empathy had been mentioned over 100 times in the 7 or 8 books I'd written, and so I've been talking about empathy, even though I didn't know that I would have described myself as empathetic. And so we kind of went too far the other way. So you want to talk about that 30%? Oh my God, this is horrible. We're talking empathy. We're leading with empathy, and ain't nobody buying it. Listen, we spent about a good 18 months with the Lively Paradox arm of the business funding my empathy project because I'm out here having an identity crisis, trying to make sense of what I've been told my whole life versus what is true. What does this mean for my relationships? What does this mean? How do I like get this relationship going with Mr. Richardson? Which, by the way, I wrote a book called Redeemed last year. It's a spectacular riveting piece of work. No, I don't talk about it because it don't have nothing to do with my work. It's just like my little personal project. And I'd written in there that part of the hardest thing about being connected to him is that he don't really emote. So I'm used to people who are excited to see me. If you like me, if you don't like me, then ain't nobody paying no attention to that. But if you like me, I expect you to be excited to see me. And this man would be so neutral. And yesterday, I saw him twice, and when I went to see him in the morning was more of a visit, but when I went to see him for dinner, I was just dropping something off. And in the morning, he was excited to see me. I could see it in his face. And I remember just being so happy about that yesterday. And then when I went back and I wasn't staying long, I just stayed there while he ate, and then I left because I had an appointment here at the house. I could see he was disappointed I was leaving, and I just remember feeling grateful, for that yesterday, and I bring it up, though, because God has given me a Jocelyn to be here with me the whole time, and to help me be able to feel these things and express them in a vulnerable way, and it's fine, and I don't know if you are thinking about, starting a business or if you do run a business, but that 30-30-30 thing, things are amazing, things are pretty average, this is horrible. uh it's pretty accurate because when we weren't bringing in money on my little empathy project, I was worried about it. And I was like, this is awful, this is not sustainable for another 18 months, right? Like I can't make payroll if something ain't selling. And another way God has been faithful, right? I woke up one morning. I keep track of my dreams. I keep track of my little one sentence prayers I write down every day. And I woke up with this idea: go back and look at what you used to present. And I went back and looked at what I used to present, and I was reminded again, just like I'm not a DEI expert, I'm not an empathy expert, believe it or not. Empathy is kind of who I am as a person, but my work is about leaders. While you can't be empathetic if you don't understand DEI in some way, you can't be a good leader. I mean, you also gonna have a hard time with leadership if you don't have empathy. That's why I was mentioned throughout my leadership books, because you need a little empathy in order to lead well. And so I just made some minor tweaks to the presentation. They were super minor. Empathy is not the lead, but empathy is still a critical component of the content. And the very first presentation or keynote after I'd made the shift was like right back to converting 5% of the audience. And so right now, listen, we on the 30% high. We just had our first public leadership summit. The survey results are coming in. I think one person gave us like a 4s out of 5 on most things, but the other people in attendance, which were about just about 24 people, all gave it 5s and gave us some good feedback about what could be better and different next time. So we think we're gonna do that a couple times a year. Riding on a high right now, feeling really good about it. Made it to 8 years. Got to figure out something with this dang IRS because ooh, they be killing me. But otherwise, it's been a wonderful journey. And so I'm trying to figure out like how do I, and I think this is every entrepreneur's challenge. How do you maintain yourself and maintain your business knowing that these two things are not one and the same? They're not the same thing. Be at church preaching on Sunday. That's me as an individual, talking about, what the Lord has done for me. I get to officiate a wedding tomorrow. That's me as a person. But those to some people feel like appearances, because for my work, I show up and I facilitate discussion. I give a speech, but it's not the same. And now that I've clarified that Lively Paradox sits solidly in the leadership space, and leaders must be empathetic and inclusive and make people feel like they belong in order to be good at what they do. I just feel really good about this. And I was watching my son, he's out in New Jersey teaching a class on self-defense, which makes total sense because, that's what he does is the little Muay Thai tournaments, and is a state champion a couple times over. And I was watching him. I was even watching how he was standing and everything. And man, he sure does look like he'd be a fantastic leader of my organization. So y'all pray with me that he'll decide to stop doing all that other stuff he's doing and come over here and run his mama's business because it's still on my heart. And then I can tackle things like Project 2025, want to defund Head Start. Can I just say, before I get out of y'all hair, because it's been over 20 minutes, can I just say that nobody puts a plan together that they do not intend to implement? The idea that there is this 922-page document that has been put together and they don't intend to implement it is absolutely ridiculous. Come on, y'all. Come on. And when I think about leadership in general and looks, what leadership looks like, if you're gonna put together a strategy, 3 to 5 year strategy, whatever, you're putting that strategy together so you can implement it. And I will tell you, the Heritage Foundation has exhibited amazing amounts of leadership in how they have structured this document. They have a 180-day plan that they have not publicly shared with everyone. But what I can tell you is many of the clients I support, if not all, are focused on doing something helpful to the world, ending homelessness, reducing domestic violence, educating children, touching the hearts of God's most hurting people, helping us to be well. I'm thinking about my primary clients, provide electricity service and throughout rural counties in Virginia. Listen, people I know are doing, I believe, doing the Lord's work. And when you see something that tells you to separate yourself, and folks are using scripture to suggest that what we need to do is separate ourselves, just remember that you are supposed to stand out because of the unique purpose that you have in the world. And that separating is not so that you cannot love people, not be in community with people. It is so that we can tell you from the rest. And my hope is that I'm gonna leave this world in a way that people have been able to tell me from the rest. But I need y'all to also pray with me. One other thing, as I have journeyed on my own personal empathy journey and become more emotionally in tuned, man, do my feelings get hurt a lot. I own way too much. I think I overuse accountability sometimes. Just pray that God will help me remember that humans are incredibly complex. Everything is not mine to own. Everything ain't about me. Um, because I need to create some pretty firm boundaries. Been going through my list of things that I do and asking myself if 80% of my time is being spent on the things I love the most. And in a couple categories, the answer is no too often. So y'all pray with me that we can fix that. And if you can make it out to Raytown to Oasis Church this Sunday, I am the preacher on record. I'm gonna have to put this preacher thing on my resume because I'm ordained now so that I can deliver this wedding tomorrow. We wouldn't want her wedding to be null and void because I didn't get ordained. And two, this gonna be my sixth sermon in the church, so we're gonna call that a resume builder. We're gonna put that right on there. And if you haven't had a chance, there were some people who told me that they didn't know about the leadership summit and want to come. If you haven't had a chance, be sure to go to drnicoleprice.com or livelyparadox.com and check out. Pastor, what time is church on Sunday? Because people asking. And I know what time I got to be there, but I don't even know what time it start. So why you laughing? Give us the answer, sir. um, but yeah, we're gonna put this on our resume, and um, it'll just be on that personal side. But I think I should go on my CV. If y'all disagree, y'all let me know. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I've been working on it, even though I got this wedding in advance of it. If y'all want to come to Sunday school, it's at 9:15, but church started at 10:15. And be there in your Sunday best. I don't know what they wear, but I dress up for the Lord. Anyway, happy anniversary to Lively Paradox. I'm gonna put Yvette's comment up here again because I'm telling you, if I didn't get fired, there's no way I would have been starting a business. I would have been working for one of y'all, probably Dr. Marsh, because I like working for her. Uh, and let's see, the Oasis Church International in Raytown. Let's see if we can find the address because folk asking me all these things I don't know. Here's the address too. And listen, thank y'all for staying on a little long. I appreciate y'all today. I'm really excited about my anniversary, y'all. I had no idea if I'd make it this far. Um, there have been a lot of things that have could have ended this journey. And yeah, thank you for all of my friends who have hired me. You know, that's another thing. Folk be saying they friends don't support them. I think most of my friends don't even know what I do. But for the ones who do, they be putting me on, and I'm appreciative. Thank you. So as I am thanking the Lord, I am thanking you too. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a really good week. And I'm gonna make sure I take a whole bunch of pictures so y'all can see how I put it on. I'ma ratchet it up for this wedding ceremony. Don't worry, the bride said I could be extra. So I'm gonna be extra. Okay. I got my Andrea Yama ready. Thank you, Felicia Biddle, who is my personal stylist. Um, I'm gonna be up there at the front killing the game. And if anybody got problems, just know the bride told me I could be over the top. She ain't worried. She ain't worried about nobody showing her up because she knows she um the star of the show. So congratulations to Monisha Gilmore on getting hired. Listen, Javetta, girl, bring me to Florida, child. Bring me to Florida, and thank you for looking for the money because y'all know Pastor Brooks ain't paying me, right? Y'all know he ain't paying. He ain't paying my fee no way. So Javetta, I appreciate you, baby. Me and Javetta used to be cheerleaders together in high school. Still, I got to be the mascot. Just in case you didn't know. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good weekend. Take care now. It's Filter Free Friday. We got plenty of work to do.